There he is. There is Billy. He's coming in clear with his bass. I think I see you. You hear me?
Yes.
You know what I'm listening to? I don't know if you ever heard this.
You're what?
I don't know if you ever heard this song. Can you name that song?
I hear that song.
You know that song?
You think I know it?
I don't know. I know it because I used to see this band called Talas, and you're Billy Sheehan. You're an artist on record. Your ultimate intimate conversation with your favorite artist. What an introduction that is. Billy, thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You know, oh man, it's wonderful to have you here. We have mutual friends, you and I. And, you know, before we get started and get the show rolling over here, I just have these for my to read the notes. So I'm not a true stalker, have notes on you. If I knew everything on the top of my head, I'd be insane and you'd be nervous of me. But it's great to have you here. Thank you. We've been playing tag with each other, you and I.
A little bit.
A little bit, man. A little
traveling
bit.
Now, so it's difficult for me to be in one spot at an agreed upon time. So
no, well, I'm glad you do this. Yeah, no, I'm glad you're here. You know what, man? I used to jam on Thursday nights at the Cat Club with Slim Jim. I was in that band with Eric Dover, and I played bass. And then I used to see you on the Sunday sometimes jam as well.
Yeah, a lot. That was a hangout for a Sunday night.
It was a great hangout, wasn't it? Wasn't it fun?
It was a blast.
It was like almost like the Cheers for the rock and rollers. You go there, you hang out. You know?
Everybody knew your name.
It really was the best little place. It was intimate, and but I did like the stage when it was on the other side when you first walked in before they moved. Do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah, it was just a lot of fun. But Billy, thanks for being here today. And you know what? I remember going to Lemore's in Brooklyn, and I used to sneak in there with my braces and keep my mouth shut at like 84, and I used to see you guys play out there when you were in Talas, and it was bands like you guys were playing the Talas. It was Twisted Sister every Thursday night. There was TT Quick was another one they play, the rock capital of Brooklyn.
Yeah, a lot of bands. I posted on one of the posters the other day, and just had a bunch of bands from the day, and some of them are still around and huge, and some of them are gone.
Some of them are gone. But it's funny because as I'm going down the rabbit hole with Talas right now, there's so much out there that I forgot about. And I'm like, oh my God, like after Talas, after you left, I forgot that Bruno for a short time was from Danger played in Talas after you later on. I forgot which he was in White Line. He was all over the place before Danger. I forgot all this mad history. So we'll go down the rabbit hole and talk about that and the beginning. But you guys put out an album. It's called the new album, 1985. And that's coming out on the 23rd of September. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And on Metal Blade Records, it's released.
Say again?
Is it on Metal Blade Records? It's released on that? Yeah. Wow. So, that was the new song I was playing in the beginning, Crystal Clear, which is what a great tune.
Yeah, I love playing. That's one of the songs Mitch Perry brought to the band when he joined. And that and another song called On the Take. Both of those are on the record with Mitch playing guitar on them. And we're glad to have him along for this.
Oh, that's cool. Mitch is a great player. Great player. Been around for people who don't know. Mitch also played with Cher for a long time. So one of those.
Yeah. So when she's at the front of the stage, if he's behind her, he gets to see her butt and those assless pants all night long. So it was a plus or a minus. I don't know.
Not a bad gig.
Benefit or reliability. It could have been both.
Not a bad gig. Some musicians might miss home, but if you're looking at that view, you forget about home while you got that.
Or long for it. One of the two.
So, I mean, Talas was one of those bands. It just was Brooklyn's finest. You guys are from Albany, right? Is that Buffalo, right? Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, New York. I'm from Brooklyn, from Canarsie. So I never been up to Albany or Buffalo or none of that.
Yeah, upstate. A lot of folks downstate there's not a lot of things that go between there. So it was kind of nice coming down from upstate New York, Buffalo. We played in Buffalo, Batavia, Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, and then down south from Albany, Schenectady, Troy, all the way down through Poughkeepsie, where the Chance was, another famous club, and then down into Brooklyn, and a couple other clubs in that area, the Rising Sun. Plus, we were at striking distance to so many with Boston and Baltimore and all that whole East Coast. All the cities were so close by. Anything that was within 8, 10, 12-hour drive, we could hit.
Yeah.
And once we hit that, anything that was within 10 hours of that was in striking range. So we ended up playing from St. Louis to Chicago to Milwaukee, Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Connecticut, all the Northeast. It was a great scene. That's why we named the record 1985, because in 85 it was just jammed with clubs and bands. Everybody was playing. Deals were getting signed. People were, advancing themselves in their careers. And when I went out to LA in 85, Sunset Boulevard was like Mardi Gras every night. It was amazing. It was six deep on the sidewalk of just rock and roll people and bands, and it was an amazing time. So
it was an amazing time.
1985.
1985. We take it for granted right now, because back then I remember being in the midst of 1985, and the motto was for you guys out there. Now that I'm receding, but it was, thank God I had nice hair back there. The longer the hair, the better the chick. And then you guys I would get my groove going listening to that your live album.
Yeah, that was recorded at the other
Lemore's East,
Queens.
In Queens, Lemore's East, which was on, and it was on Combat Records, I believe, was the label.
It was. Correct. Yeah.
I had the original copy. I wonder if it's worth anything now.
It's worth maybe $10, $20.
Where I bought it? At Zigzag Records in Brooklyn. That was the vinyl record store in Brooklyn, where you get all the records of.
Oh yeah, I remember it well.
We
were glad to have friends in the record biz, even some people at major labels, because they'd come with a little care package of all kinds of records for us,
Yeah.
So we scored some good stuff. I remember that's how I found Accept, the German band. And that's how I found Yngwie also. I forgot how that came about, but it was from Free Records. I rarely bought a record back in the days. I just relied on having them laid on me, because I was too broke to buy them anyway.
I know. Well, it was a fun time to buy records. Yeah, I remember buying Metallica, Kill 'Em All over there back in the day, and that was the place to get all these underground records. It's crazy when that 1985 hit, as we talk about your album and the year and reminiscing. I was a big Motown and Beatle fan, and I remember I was so crazy obnoxious when, even with the Crew coming out and Helter Skelter and I went through my stupid phase. I went worse than leg warmers and bandanas around my legs. I go, oh my God, this Helter Skelter version is so great. I'm throwing away my Beatle records. What lunatic would even say that? My favorite,
Yeah, you go back and look at the things you were into, and for me, some of it stands up, some of it doesn't. Some of the things that you were led astray by, so to speak. But there was some great stuff. I mean, if you're into Beatles and Motown, that was a huge thing for me also. Like yourself, I came up, I'm assuming, at a time when there really wasn't a lot of categories with walls between them. Mm-hmm. Radio would play everything from Three Dog Night to Grand Funk to Mahavishnu to the Supremes to a classical piece to Joni Mitchell to Hendrix, everything. So, and that was a great time and that was way before 1985, of course. But so going through that time I think it was a good thing and a great benefit, because you had a broad spectrum of styles and music and ideas and feels and tones and things like that. So, whereas now it's a little bit more, not as bad as it's been, but it's a little bit more kind of, you just listen to that one type of thing and don't listen to anything else. So I think a lot of great players, I'm not referring to myself at all, but a lot of great players came up through that time and were exposed to a lot of different things. And so it helped them to form a unique style.
Yeah.
When on bass, mix James Jamerson with Tim Bogert and Jack Bruce and John Entwistle and uh, Jocko and Stanley, that could create a new flavor of soup there, of all
Uh,
those ingredients.
I agree with you 100%. And you know what? And maybe, and I talk about this a lot. I remember I had Ted Nugent on the show. We went down the rabbit hole about just James Jameson, the whole Funk Brothers, where people don't even know who the Funk Brothers are. And if you don't, Standing in the Shadows, everybody get that, watch it, you'll
Oh
understand
yeah,
it. It
incredible.
it's touching. You know what's so crazy about that? Even at the end, James Jameson had to sneak in to the Motown award show. I don't know if you remember that at the end where he couldn't
Oh,
get in. He was an alcoholic, and I think he
yeah,
passed away on some hotel on Sunset or somewhere over there. And
for sure.
he had to sneak. And this guy, and which we'll go, talk about this. His melody lines when you listen to Heat Wave and all the grooves, and his thing was about bass playing. Where he got this, it was like where are you getting this from? And it was from a fat lady he pictured bouncing down the street, walking her ass, cheeks. That's what his thing was, but never would change the strings. And he was the
No.
hook, the one finger, the
Yeah,
hook, So it was just, and as you talk about that, I guess it was a time where you'd stare at your records as a kid, you'd read every artist on it, whatever you could, songwriters, you'd soak it all in. It was just, and the sounds, you'd listen to all this and you just get lost. Now you got YouTube. It's so open. The mystery is
not
gone.
a it's not as an immersive experience to say the least. And but we didn't have all the distractions and all the choices. You had rock, blues, folk, jazz, classical. That was
Mm-hmm.
it, you know.
That was it.
We didn't see much world music back in the day or anything. There wasn't all the million subcategories there are now, and it was just kind of a no internet to interrupt you. And I know not us. I know you probably see the same thing. I mean, we are checking our phone every 20
Oh
seconds.
God, it's awful.
It's kind of hard to live without it, but it's also awful to live with it in some ways. So you don't
It's
get a
awful.
chance to just sit there and read. I'm currently actually reading a book made of paper.
Are you really? Are you not a tablet, but out of paper?
Yes, it's on paper. So it's going back to an interesting experience. But yeah, an incredible legacy came before us, all fans and players, that really set us up for quite a rich culture of music. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
I love a lot of stuff that people wouldn't expect me to love. The Gypsy Kings, or I'm a big Sinatra fan, but I love Accept and Priest, and some electronic dance music I find intriguing also. But my main thing, of course, is rock, and
It,
what we did on the Talas record. That's kind of that's my thing.
I mean,
I felt right at home there.
you know what, and you do it well back then, and back in the 80's, 1985. I just remember like 84 watching you play, and you really, what you did on the bass was incredible for a guy like me. I'm like, oh my God, it was just magical. And I was watching some stuff you did. I saw you in an old episode of Nikki Sixx would talk about bass gear with musicians, and you did an episode with Nikki, and I didn't even realize this, but you were scalloping the neck of your own bass back then. You took your bass and you did it yourself
Yeah,
back
I
in
did
the early
almost all
days.
my own work. On these Yamaha basses, there's an extra pickup here, but on
Mm-hmm.
my old P bass, there's nothing there, so I put a Gibson pickup on there. I love the Gibson tone, and I chiseled it out myself and wired it myself and put it in and changed the neck on my bass from a P bass neck to a Telecaster bass neck. That's what this is modeled after now, the same size and feel. Because back in the day, you didn't have guitar shops of anyone that could work on anything. Even in Buffalo, which is a pretty big city, I knew like of one guy,
Yeah.
one or two guys, and of course it costs a lot of money, but I knew a little bit about woodworking, so I wasn't completely blind, but I did not have a lot of finesse, so I did hack my way in. But doing your own mods and taking care of your own gear and plugging it in and wiring it and figuring it all out, that was part of the gig. And even setting up the PA and the lighting and learning all about that, you kind of had to do everything.
Yeah.
So it was a good experience later on. It proved valuable, understanding, sound and lights and how they work and what you need to do that, and your gear and your amps and and monitor systems and all that. We had to build our own monitors. I remember the first time I ever saw a monitor on the stage. I went, what's that box doing up here? It's a monitor. A what? Well, you can hear yourself. Well, we can hear. We just turned the PA a little bit inward so we could kind of hear ourselves, and we sing. And I hear tapes from back in the day, and we're on pitch. We hit it. So the monitor thing came later on, and a lot more gear. But back in the day, you kind of had to do everything yourself when it came down to your musical instruments. And now done a bunch of YouTube videos about, like, how to make a cheap bass play great. You just I bought a $50 neck, $45 body, put old pieces on it, and it plays great.
Yeah.
If you know how to adjust it, you can, so you don't need a $3,000 instrument to start off. I did that primarily for beginners, but also a lot of other people watch my channel and contact me online from Indonesia and the Philippines and a lot of countries where they don't have a lot of money, more somewhat impoverished, and so they appreciated being able to just find a cheap bass and make it play really good, because you can.
Yeah.
So yeah, that self modification was a big thing.
No, I watch some of your YouTube and watch how you go into it's almost like Frankenstein. You Dr. Frankenstein in the laboratory. You're going there, and all I was thinking to myself was, he took his first bass. He's going in there like, there's that risk where I could really screw this up, and I don't have the money to buy another bass. Oh my God! Did you have that fear doing like?
No, because once you start working with wood, you realize you could probably fix anything that you don't do right. Everything is repairable. Even a crack or a split or something, you can fix that. Jocko tore the frets out of his jazz bass with a pliers or something. I don't know what. I remember hearing the story. Had Van Halen just jammed pickups into an old Schecter body and spray painted it himself. So it was not an uncommon thing.
Yeah.
But and again, it led to a sense of experimentation, which also translated over into playing. You've got a whole bunch of notes on here,
mm-hmm.
and you hear some wild classical piece or some really intricate passage, and there was no YouTube, and the Guitar Player magazine was about 4 pages stapled together in somebody's garage at that time. And I remember I had some of the first issues of Guitar Player magazine. I wish I still did. Those are actually worth something. But you'd figure out how to, you just kind of invent your way around, and there was no real guide. Do you use 2 fingers, one, a thumb, a pick, and you use.
There was no guide.
Whatever you do, So that also led to a lot of unique players that came up, because we didn't have any guidance or any template to follow. So you just had to kind of figure it out. You'd hear, a bass run. You didn't know where he was playing it on the neck or how he was fingering it. You just had to kind of figure it out. I remember years ago, I did a bass clinic in one of my first trips to Japan, I think about 1988, maybe 87. And I didn't realize it, but they had me in like a 3,000 seater, and it was sold out. And I thought, oh man, there's no pressure. So they had the Japanese are great. They plan everything. They had a plan. They're going to have like 5, at one point of the clinic, they had 5 kids come up and sit in chairs and have them play for me. And I could, talk with them and explain what they're doing right or whatever. And they were all competent players and all pretty good. One guy came up and there was a solo on the Sink Your Teeth into that album called NV 43345, which is my name now. And so the guy wanted to play that for me. I said, sure, go ahead. I actually didn't remember much of it. I haven't played it for a long time. And so he played it and he got all the notes right, but his fingering was wildly different than what I did. And I was actually impressed that he got it without doing it the way I did it, which meant he's now on his own. He's already on his own direction. Even copying something for somebody else, he's already got his own unique thing. And it's going to sound slightly different in some of the nuances, but generally you got the notes and he played it. So it's interesting to not have that Now everything is spelled out exactly in YouTube and slowed down and show which finger does what and where and how. And that makes you play just like the guy played it, but it's not a lot of your own life in there or person.
No, there's no soul, there's no heart. I remember even trying to learn when I was learning how to play bass as a kid, and I'd look at the charts and before I could even, try to read music, I look at the notes and then I'd go by numbers, and you just don't get that soul. You had to really listen to it.
Yeah, that's true.
Derek Sherinian, who of course, from Sons of Apollo, a good
Uh,
friend of mine. I remember we got a chance to play with Eddie Van Halen. And I'm sure Derek told you this story forever, but
is that up at the house?
at the house, I got the call and I called Derek up and he just lost his mind. But I remember I had a GMP bass behind me, and there was this company called GMP and they made these basses and it was fretting out. So I was standing next to John Corabi and I saw Eddie fixing his own stuff, what you did. And I go, would you fix this? It's fretting out. And he was like a mad scientist. And he's running in his living room. There was a piano. There's no furniture. It was only like workout machines. There was a piano far, running back, then going to the A string, running back and coming back. I go, Eddie, you want my guitar tuner? And he goes, Stefan, here. And I look at Karabi. I go, so you don't want my guitar tuner? But he was all the ears. That's what, it comes
A
from
real
all that.
organic way of doing it.
Oh yeah, it was just one of those great things. Now I got to ask you, Talas, you guys, I didn't realize this reading everything about you guys. You did 30 dates with Van Halen? Is this?
Yeah, we opened in 1980.
Wow. So what
About
album
30
was that
shows.
for what album was that for Van Halen then?
Women and Children First.
Wow.
Yeah,
What
we
was
had
that?
a situation happen. We in Buffalo, we were a pretty big band, and there was local promoters in Buffalo. Every city and every region had local promoters from New York City or the Cleveland area. I forgot some of the names. Famous guys. Um, and in Buffalo, we had a local promoter that bring in all the big bands. So in a huge band, the Stones or Van Halen or the Who would come in. They did all the business and they hired them and put them in the auditorium and everything. So they were the biggest guys in the music biz in Buffalo, and we were the biggest band. So eventually, by default, they kind of stepped in and started to do some managing for us. So they contacted Premier Talent, which is one of the main booking agencies they dealt with. Premier did the Who and Van Halen and a million other giant bands. And there's a woman by the name of Barbara Skydell, and they sent her our demo. Unknown to us, Barbara sent it to Van Halen. We didn't have any idea where the demo was going to go or who was going to listen to it. And apparently Ed called back and said, yeah, let's have them open up. And so out of nowhere, they come to pick me up for the gig. And I get in the car and they got a bottle of champagne. I go, and we had just done a whole bunch of other things, and Aerosmith was coming to town, maybe do the opening slap for that. We just did a showcase for a record company. She said, hey, do we get the record deal? No. I go, we open it for Aerosmith? No. I go, well, what is it? He goes, we got the Van Halen tour. I go, what? I'm like, holy cow. Because we love that band. It was just so great. Went out, did about, like I said, 30 shows with them. And I always tell people on their worst night of that tour, they were only spectacular.
Oh, I can imagine.
They were on fire. It was so great. They were every night, just killed it. So great.
Wow, what an honor. What an honor.
That was amazing, yeah.
And you had the best seat in the house.
Yeah, we'd always stay, after our show. And they were really nice to us. They let us do encores in a bunch of cities. If we got to sound like we had an encore, they said, go ahead, Really cool with us. And we got to know the crew guys and things like this. And then when they would come touring again through our area, we'd always go to the show and go back and say hi and stuff like that. That was a very nice thing.
So that was your first bonding with Van Halen, just to meet the whole cast and crew, just playing with them, right? Back then, did you meet anybody beforehand, or that was it? The first time you met Eddie or Dave?
We didn't know them at all. And our first night, we hadn't met anybody in the band at all. We were in the arena, and we got a little dressing room on the other side of the arena from where their whole entourage is housed. And we're sitting in this dressing room. It's kind of an L-shaped room, so I can see the door and whoever walks in, but the people in the room can't see it until they get past the middle of the L. And so I'm sitting right there, and I can see the door and the room. And the door opens up, and later on, the guys in the band and the crew say, "You just should have seen the look on their face." The door opens up, and it's Ed Van Halen. The first thing he goes is, "Which one of you guys is Billy Sheehan?" So I went, "Me." He was a sweet, wonderful guy. I don't know how he heard of me. Maybe through Denny Carmassi, because Denny played in Montrose in San Francisco, and I worked with Denny when we went to England to do the Michael Schenker first record. So that may be what it was from. But he came in, and he had heard from me that was a proud moment of my life. That he didn't even knew what my name at all. So, but he turned out later became good friends, and he's a great man, wonderful guy, and changed the world of the electric guitar as we know it for sure.
It definitely did change the world. Definitely is one of those cats that came in here and just, yeah, he was just a genius, a genius. You could see it. You could just see, this. Yeah, you just definitely see it. So there you go. You go from there to play with Roth. I mean, back then that's like Roth is like he was just the Elvis of frontmen. There was nobody touching him.
The rock star in the world at that time. The 1984 record was huge.
Yeah.
And while we were with Talas, there's another series of phone calls. We had just showcased, I think, for Danny Goldberg from Gold Mountain Records.
I know Danny very well. Yeah, he's a friend of the show. Yeah.
Exactly. So we got a call. The William Morris agency wanted to sign us and put us on tour with Yngwie. Great. The tour starts in LA in a couple of weeks. All right, great. And then we got the call from Danny Goldberg. They're going to sign us to Gold Mountain Records. I thought, wow, this is unbelievable. Then a third call came in. That's all in the same time period, some weird thing happening. And it was David Lee Roth's office saying he wanted to talk to me about being in his movie. I said, what? Being in your movie? I had no idea. So since I was going out to LA, I had a day off before the first show of the tour, and then we'd be traveling the whole time. So I got in touch and said, well, I'll be there for a day so I can come out. And so sure enough, they came and picked me up, and I went out to Dave's house and went to him and was talking about it. He goes, well, there is a movie, but the real story, you got to keep it a state secret. You can't tell anybody. The real story is I quit Van Halen and I want to start a band. So you and me, let's find a guitar player and drummer and do it. And I said, okay, I'm in. So the bad part of that was for the whole rest of that tour with Talas and Yngwie, we had a great tour. Yeah. Every night was jam-packed. People were going crazy. Everything was looking really great. But in the background, I'm going, sorry, guys, but I can't pass this one up, So, and there was during that time period, it was a high pressure situation too, because though we got a record deal, as you know, getting a record deal doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't even guarantee your record's going to come out.
Yeah.
It's a precarious. So I'm thinking, man, if this falls through and I'm left high and dry again, I don't know how many shots I'm going to have at this. So when Dave called, I said, a bird in the hand is worth two in the book. And I went out to LA. So that was quite and again, in summer of 85, that was when it all went down. And like I said before, Sunset Boulevard was just lined with rock and roll. And it was an amazing thing. And then, we got Steve Vai in the band and Greg Bissonette and went off on our merry way and did the Eat 'Em and Smile record and tour. And it was quite an adventure, to say the least.
What a great record too. What a great record. I mean, you had the ultimate band too. Roth really put together a great band. And
yeah, he was incredible to be around. I learned a lot from him, and man, he was I think the best rock front man ever.
Billy, the one of the, if it wasn't for Roth, you wouldn't have the Vince Neils and all these other guys. He came out with the Lion, they had the blonde hair. I mean, he really was so electrifying, and he was an entertainer. He took the old vaudeville,
I know,
and he just mixed it up in this blender of Broadway and rock and roll, and he was the ultimate frontman. In 1985, you mentioned his name. There was nobody who could touch him.
Oh yeah, that's true. So great. And I loved his voice too. I was a big fan of his Ice Cream Man. I love his voice in that. And now they have the isolated tracks that float around the internet. And a while ago they put out "Running with the Devil" with all the woo ha, all the screams and yells in it. And I think whoever put it out, and it's just Dave's voice,
Yeah.
right from the track. Uh, I think when they first put it out, they thought it'd be people would laugh at it because he made all these noises and stuff. But listen to him sing, and he's right on. His pitch is perfect. His timing is great. And so I was really a fan of his musically and lyrically too. I just finished Ted Templeman's book, and Ted talks about Dave's uh, uh, his lyrics and the quality and depth of them instead of just "I love you, baby." It's there's
No,
a story and meaning there that I love very much.
very, very much so. And he just was a great, amazing entertainer. I mean, being on the road with Roth and learning so much from this guy. Did you learn? Did you dig more into your roots from jamming with Roth? Would he take a lot of the old school and say, "Hey, try this or try that"?
Yeah, yeah. There was we'd reference. A lot of times ZZ Top would get, hey, what's that? A little more ZZ Top in that. It'd be that shuffle, but fast, like
Yeah.
Hot the Teacher. And that was basically, I heard it on the X, a kind of similar groove, not as Texas and bluesified, more heavy-eyed and rocked, but still, and everybody gets it from somewhere. I used to collect a lot of bootlegs. I have them all in digital now, all my CDs I've ripped, but all the bootlegs I collected over the years, I've got some really priceless ones. And I got the Beatles' first demo that they handed into, I think it was EMI Records in England. And there's 20 songs on it.
Wow.
And guess how many are originals?
Originals on the 20 songs. I would say there's more covers. I would say what, 4 originals, 5?
None.
None.
Not one. And back in the day, it wasn't until the Beatles and Bob Dylan and a few other artists really became strong writers and wrote their own songs. Prior to that, you and the Beatles' first record, "A Taste of Honey," "Please, Mr. Postman."
That's right.
It was 4 or 5 "Twist and Shout" songs that were not theirs, And so, being a writer and a musician, Elvis never wrote anything. Frank Sinatra never wrote anything, So you rely on songwriters. So it's kind of an interesting thing that you rely on the things you played when you were younger as your template, if you will,
Yeah.
for your songwriting. I played in the copy band. I've got bootlegs of Van Halen playing almost the same set list as Talas did in the clubs from '49 by the James Gang. I forget now, but there's a whole list of songs that we all played those songs.
Yeah.
But then when you go to write songs, you've got that kind of in your DNA. And we did a whole medley of the Who and some King Crimson and tons of Zeppelin and Stones and Hendrix and Beatles. So all that stuff kind of gets in you, and it starts to come out when you write. I found another great collection online of songs the Beatles listened to. And it was all the songs of their youth that they listened to and they got music from. People that they referenced in interviews, and somebody tracked them all down. And it was amazing because when you listen to it, you hear a little bit of, there's that chunk from Sgt. Pepper's right there. So it's not a bad thing to borrow from what came before you. I always give credit for it, of course.
Yeah.
But everyone does it. Everyone it takes from someone before. Even Bach, I think Telemann was a composer prior to Bach. When you listen to Telemann, they go, hey, I think I know where Johann got it from. So
absolutely. I mean,
wrong on that, but it's something like that.
Those when you're talking about those bootlegs, they were so valuable, especially the Beatles. They're so expensive. I was like, oh my God, $40 for this. But when you'd hear it, especially, and you could hear Lennon, big Buddy Holly fan, you could hear what his cover of Words of Love, and then you could hear when he's doing something like Girl, you could hear the Holly influence on it, just the vocals and Everly Brothers. And then you'll even hear, you got to hide this, hey, you got to hide this love away. Bob Dylan, was taking his vocal melody was sounding a little like Dylan. Yeah. And I had John Sebastian on the show from the Love and Spoonful. And
he actually played with Talas up in Woodstock.
No, really?
He played baritone guitar on one of our tracks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow. What a cool, isn't he a great kid? What a great
wonderful.
guy.
What a talent. I love the Spoonful too.
Oh my God. And
City, what a great track.
he had a whole story, Billy, telling me how Dylan tried to approach him to be in his band. He goes, "Well, I'm starting this band right now." He goes, "Oh, well, you may," and there was no attorneys. It was just a phone call. Dylan calling him up. Hey, you think maybe, well, I'm trying to do this band called Love and Spoonful. Well, okay, and hung up. Never heard from him again. That was it. That was the end of the conversation. But these stories and what you and I are sharing right now, they're wonderful stories. It's legacy of rock and roll, which you don't want to forget these stories. It makes the songs.
Yeah, I agree.
Now,
Yeah, and we're talking about influence. A lot of younger folks say, "Well, yeah, the Beatles may have done that, but not our guys, not our later generation." I've got Bon Scott singing "To Know You Is to Love You." I've got Ronnie James Dio doing "I Left My Heart in San Francisco."
he was a doo-wop. He was in a doo-wop band, Dio.
I
Which
mean, that came later.
that came that came later. I mean, these, which I'm a big doo-wop fan. Growing up in Brooklyn, CBS FM was the radio station I'd listen to, Cousin Brucey, and that's all we listened to. And I remember Labor Day weekend, you'd always, the number one song out of 500 songs was always the same number one song. It was In the Still of the Night, but 5 Satins. It was always the same
Wow.
number one song. But now I got to ask you, is this true? Now, was there ever a time that Van Halen approached you about maybe coming in, that there was problems with Michael Anthony at one time? Is that a true rumor, or
Yeah,
is it just, that is, huh?
yeah. I talked with Ed a bunch of times. Actually, I went in more recent times after Dave and Sammy. Uh, I went up to the house and jammed with Ed and Al. And I wonder who's got that tape. Somebody somewhere.
Wow.
And we talked here and there. And in retrospect, I love and respect Michael Anthony. And as a fan, I hate to see a band change players. I remember when Jethro Tull had Glenn Cornick on bass and another Martin Barr on guitar, and then the next record came out, and that one guy was gone. And you're like, "Wait, what happened?" And it was, as a fan, it always threw me when they changed members. So that was in the back of my mind. Going, man, I would love to. Of course, if an actual offer would have come through, I would have absolutely said yes. But we talked about it and discussed it. There was no paperwork or lawyer, which there would have had to have been. But we talked about it. I jammed with them. We had phone conversations about it. But I love Michael, and he's great in that band. And the bootlegs I have of them in the clubs, he's killing it. He's playing great, and he sang his ass off. And so I was torn. And I think in the end, the harsh reality of it was, as we see later on, some of the things they did, I think they thought, well, we could get this guy from Buffalo in here and pay him $500 a week and let him sleep in a Motel 6, and he'll think he died and went to heaven. So because I think initially Van Halen was an equal 4-way split, and they didn't like that, and they started splitting it differently. So I think they thought maybe they could bring me in, pay me as a sideman, and I still would have thought I was the king of the world there. You wouldn't have got a complaint from me. So I think, a little bit humbling, but I think that may have been some of the motivation as well. And I don't know how I would have had to alter a lot of my stylings, because I was generally playing in bands, not unlike, though I'm not comparing myself to him, John Entwistle. He could move around a lot because Pete Townsend was hitting these huge chords, not whittling or playing a lot. So I would have had to taken over that, taken a different role as a bass player, which I love doing and I'm happy to do. But I had a thing, and it was starting to get some traction and all that. But I consider it a great honor that I know any of them, that I've spoken with any of them, that I've played with or recorded with. I'm the only guy that ever played with every member of Van Halen.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. So Sammy, I jammed with him just a couple months ago in Chicago. And Michael was up on stage too. I also did a thing with Michael earlier with the keyboard player from Uriah Heep, Ken Hensley. We all got up and did Easy Living with me and Michael. Gary Sharon, I did the Who tribute with Mike Portnoy, Paul Gilbert, Gary. and then Ed and Al up in the and at their. Well, I did a live show with Ed once, uh, and then jamming with Ed and Al in the studio too. So that was. But I even played with Wolfie, even though he was a little tiny kid. After we did the live show in Chicago, me, Ed Van Halen, Pat Torpey, and Steve Lukather. Ed flew home and he asked me if I would like to go home. I said yeah, so I flew with him, and he had his son with him. So Ed wanted to sleep. So I said, don't worry, I'll help out there. So I asked the flight attendant for some paper, and we drew animals and letter games, and I kept him occupied while Ed slept. And I remember he looked over at one point and goes, man, you make a good father. I go, yeah, I'll stick with my cat. Thank you very much. But well, I did technically play with him, but not music. But I saw him recently. A Wolfie is just great. Just a really his own self doing his thing. You see the legacy of his dad, but he's not overshadowed by it. And I'm very, very pleased to see that.
He is amazing. And you know what? It's sad that you got the some of the people with the internet and the keyboards. These people hide behind the keys over here. They hide behind it. And everybody's a critic. But the kid, when he went and joined Van Halen, and when I remember being at the house with Sheehan, he had videos, Eddie, and it was all set up. They were rehearsing. They were videoing everything, recording all their rehearsals. It was all set up, and he was showing a video of Wolfie back then playing, and he was a kid. I'm like, this is crazy, but the kid can play, and that's before we even knew what he can do. And he really proved himself. And even he just did for the late great Taylor Hawkins, who passed away. The Foo Fighters, they put on that whole big spectacular tribute to him, and Wolf came up there and he kicked ass.
Really
he just
I'm very glad to see it.
Yeah, he just on guitar. He's one of those cats that plays everything. He does it all. So talented kid. It's in the genes. It truly is. That'd be a cool little act to see you playing with him or something like down the road. Look, I'm managing you right now, Billy. You come in for one interview, I'm taking over, and I'm now your manager. That's what the Jewish guy from Brooklyn does. He just takes over, the idea guy. So we got. I'm going to let you go because I know time is running. You probably got a bunch of interviews, but I got to have you come back because I like talking the music with you, and it's a lot of fun. And
pleasure.
I know I was going through you. Then it's funny when I was going through you. Then your PR person happened. I go, that's so funny. I've been trying to hook him down, and I've been emailing back and forth. But I got to thank her, Amanda, for getting us together. And
I'll thank her as well.
Yeah, for you coming on here. Now, look, I know you're a big Beatle fan, but I'm going to give you a top 5 really quick before you get out of here. And you're on a deserted island, vinyl album. I know you're going to go, where's the electric? How am I going to plug this in? Let's make believe. If you only had 5 albums to take with you, listen to forever, what would they be?
Sgt. Pepper, Red by King Crimson, AC/DC Back in Black, or the live, If You Want Blood, You've Got It, with Bon. I'd take them both. That'd be 4 then. I only got one more. I would take then... the Winery Dogs is an important band to me. Talas is too. So I would have to ask if I could make it 6 and bring the record and Winery Dogs with me.
Talas and Winery Dogs. That's a top 5 right there with Billy right there. Everybody, that's his top 5. We'll make it a 6 over there. We'll squeeze it all together. Winery Dogs, another great band. What's going on with the Winery Dogs these days?
New record is done. Mixed, mastered, the cover is finished, the credits are compiled, and they're booking the tour for next year now, and I'm very excited. I enjoy playing with that band very much, with Mike and Richie. It's a riot, and it's the new record is really cool. The opening track is really wonderful. We're very pleased with it, so a lot of people are online excited about it, so that'll be out ASAP as soon as possible.
Yeah, we'll keep everybody notified. I'll put links for Billy down here so you could check out what Billy's doing and follow him on Instagram, his YouTube channel. I'll put links to get the Talas record. Richie is one of those talented cats too. He used to come to the Cat Club and jam with "I'm Losing You." He used to do that song with us.
I played that with him a couple of times.
Oh God, he's so good. He first of all, he looks cool. He sings amazing. He plays amazing. He has the whole package. This guy, you know.
And he does rough construction too. Two by
Oh,
four. I've
he's
seen
one.
him pouring cement out back of his house. So.
Do you do that? Do you? Well, you do. Can
Yeah,
you work
I'm a
on
home
bass?
man. Yeah.
You're not me. Not me. I get yelled at. The wife won't let me hang a picture up, and I get yelled at. I go. I go. Look at these hands. This is, you know. It's. I have to hire somebody. But anyway, Billy Sheehan in the house. I got to thank you for coming on here. And
My pleasure, absolutely. I'll tell you.
I mean, I know I forgot something to ask you, but you know, we'll leave for a part two. You got to
do it
come
again.
So you have a vinyl record collection, right? You have vinyl records
I got
yourself?
some vinyl. I saved a lot of my vinyl, but I eventually went to all CDs, and then I digitized everything myself. So I had 2 or 3 computers going at the same time, ripping, and then I compile it all into a hard drive. So my digital collection is about 2.2 terabytes.
Oh wow,
it's a lot of music.
That's a lot of good music right there.
So I always have to get the hard drives are expensive when they're that big, so I got to back it up in 10 different drives. So it's expensive.
That's what I was just going to say. You got to back up the backups. That's because you don't want to lose it. Do you have your record?
I sent a copy to like my cousin in Buffalo or a friend of mine in Texas, just in case of disaster. It exists somewhere because a lot of work went in it. Because my iTunes collection is curated right down to the letter, all the cover art, all the correct titles of all the songs in the right order. And
oh wow, so you're really detailed with it.
Hours on that. It's crazy.
Oh wow. How about the first record you bought with your own money?
8 Miles High by the Byrds.
Wow. This is the 45.
Yeah, the flip side was Why, a song that I couldn't find that version of forever. I was playing all these Byrds greatest hits. Finally, a box set came up, and they had the song Why, and they had it in parentheses single version. I go, oh, thank God. And it wasn't wildly different, but I knew that sonic DNA, I knew those other ones weren't the same. Same with the Rolling Stones Got Live If You Want It. I've never found the original version of it because they got some guy yelling stuff off at the beginning of the record and he's gone. And it wasn't on the other version. So I don't know how that, but I'm a nut with with collecting and having you sit down with a glass of wine and you got the hard drive there and start opening it up with some friends. A riot. It's some of the best nights of my life. I have sitting down having an iTunes night. Pretty cool.
That is awesome. You know, I do a vinyl game show. That's why I asked you if you ever had 5 of your old vinyl records. My buddy, Eric Singer, has been busting my chops because he's getting into vinyl. We have a showdown where you go against each other, right? And the audience votes in real time. And then you win a prize from me, a vinyl album of your choice. But it's a lot of fun. And but while you're doing it, you're telling the story where Billy pulls out Meet the Beatles and why it's important. And you talk yeah. So if you ever want to play, and when Eric gets off the road, which soon he is, love to have you guys play.
That'd be great.
He talks more than me. I don't know if you know him very well, but he talks more than me.
He's a great singer. He sings his ass off.
He's amazing. We would do our Cat Club jams, me and him, and that's how I met him when I used to play with Gilby, and it was with Eric, and I met Eric through Gilby, and just we hit it off. And Eric is a dear friend, great voice. That raspy 70s style voice.
Kind of a Rod Stewart.
Totally. Isn't it weird that the drummers from Kiss all have kind of the same? They had Peter, Eric Carr, and Eric Singer all have the same kind of tone. Very strange. But anyway, I'm going to let you get out of here. Billy Sheehan, great having you here. Links for Billy down below, everybody. I want you to click on it, follow him, check out his YouTube channel. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're a gearhead. This man right here will teach you all. And if you write them, he might write back to you. But Billy, thank you so much. All righty.
My pleasure.
Okay, I'll let you out of here. Yeah, we'll do it again. And I'll send you all my stuff again, and we'll hook up again. All right. Much love to you, and be safe out there on the road.
Thank you, my brother.
All righty. Good talking to you. Bye.
Bye.
I'll get you out of here, Billy. I'm learning how to do it.
You get an added point there.
All right. Let me stop this. Stop.